Hi, everybody. This is Eric Altman, sales engineer at Vodia Networks. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to talk about multi-tenant on the Vodia PBX, as well as some other things. So I'm just going to jump right in here, and just so you know, this presentation will be available on our blog after the fact. So if you miss anything or some of the slides have a lot of information, you can use as a reference in the future. So voice collaboration, wherever you are. On Vodia Managed Voice, it's multi-tenant or it can be single-tenant, PBX, for midsize and enterprise telco companies looking to either replace or build onto their current voice business. Vodia's management portal makes it easy for administrators to build their own customized voice solution. One instance, multiple domains, more power. So that's the key here as we're talking about one instance. So the days of hosting multiple VMs is over. Actually, since 2005, Vodia's multi-tenant PBX has enabled telco companies grow, keep their costs down. We've got built-in SBC and RPS, and so it's even easier to deploy Vodia PBX all over the world. But the key for this screen, I think, is the fact that it is one instance. So we're talking about one instance of the PBX, and that allows you to have all your customers on that one instance. I mean, we can support somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 to 500 users on one instance of the PBX. So that's key, and you can create the multiple domains to have your different customers. So you've got SBC, Session Border Controller built in, remote provisioning, the RPS, management console, protection against denial of service, and white labeling. And we'll talk about some of those things in a little more detail as we go through here. Core Vodia features. So I'm not going to read everyone on this slide. Like I mentioned earlier, this will be available after the fact, so that you can use this slide as a reference. But these are some of the core Vodia features. Being able to import accounts, SIP trunks, codec support, parking, BLF. I'm just naming a few here. On-premises or cloud. We've got button mapping, Google API logins, WebRTC for calling. So you got a lot of different features here. Again, I won't go through each one. Most of these probably look pretty familiar to you anyway. At the end, we will open this up for questions. So if you have any questions on any of these, feel free to type them in at the end of the presentation. Productivity. So a lot of these applications that are built into the system are going to enable productivity, instant messaging, being able to chat through the user interface, seeing presence of who's available. Enhanced cell phones when so that are going to going next one. So what features does Managed Voice offer? Again, multiple companies in one instance. If you take anything away from this slide, that's probably one of the key features there, is that you don't have to spin up 20 different servers here for all your customers. You've got it all in one instance of the PBX, which obviously makes for better management. So you go into that one PBX, go into each domain to make your changes if you need to, and you never have to leave that screen basically to do any of your updates, things like that. You update the PBX, it's going to update it for everybody. Obviously, things like extensions, hunt groups, and agent groups, park orbits, service flags. We'll be talking about all of those as we go through the presentation here. Integrated API, white labeling, highest level of voice encryption, automatic recording, some interops with certain CRMs, click to dial. We've got a lot of different things that our Managed Voice does offer. Some key features of the extension: being able to provision the phones, registering multiple phones, either local or remote. You can have a fax DID where that'll go fax to email. Being able to log into the portal and monitor ACD queues. We'll talk a little bit more about ACD as we go a little further here as well. Ringtones can be chosen. We can generate PCAPs to see if there's any network issues going on. Monitoring and call pickup. Monitoring other users. Everybody gets an address book, an LDAP directory on the phone, where you can look at the domain address book or a personal address book, and even music on hold preferences, different music on hold depending on what they're waiting on hold for. CRM integration. So we do incorporate all the features and capabilities of Vodia PBX system. It integrates with the most popular business apps, just to name a few. Salesforce, Sugar CRM, Zoho, and HubSpot are some that we integrate with right out of the box. Establishing your brand, talk about white labeling, so it allows you to customize the GUI with your company logos and or colors, build your brand and boost customer confidence and satisfaction. So both in the admin side as well as the user portal side, you can upload your logos, change the color schemes, and really, again, customize this for your customers so that they know you. They don't necessarily have to see Vodia on there. They want to see your company name. Statistics, so within the administrator, you can get the latest updates from your system. That can come in the form of email notifications based on certain events, graphs, SMS notifications. You can see MOS scores and a calls graph. So you've got a lot of information allowing an administrator who wants to see all that information and run reports, but you've got it in real time in the system status, seeing the traffic, the call quality, things like that. Recording, so the multi-tenant interface has integrated a call recordings player right into the user portal. So users can listen to the Vodia call recordings with the right permissions directly from their browser. And they can navigate through the recordings just scrolling through. They can be searched as well. This is just a little screenshot of what it might look like. And you just hit over here and it'll play that, that recording for you. Use your existing IP phones. So we support SIP phones, so we're compatible with most IP phones on the market. You can use the same extension on multiple devices, and this is going to save time for your IT personnel and your users by using features like the automated provisioning, BLF, or speed dial, or transferring calls, hot desking, and as you saw on some of the other slides, much more as far as features on the phones as well as on the GUIs. We also do interface with PMS, property management systems, so we're able to communicate with those PMSs using UHLL protocol and the FIOS protocol. So we were certified with the Infor Hospitality platform, and the following features are supported. So you can send call data records to the PMS and add charges to the guest bill. You can send MAID codes to the PMS as well to change the status of the room, clean, dirty, whatever it might be, wake-up calls, exchange do not disturb messages with the PMS system. So we will integrate with PMS, so don't stop if you've got a potential hotel that is looking for a phone system. We can integrate with the most popular PMS systems. SMS and API. So with both Telnix and Bandwidth, we support sending of SMS. So that's not just chatting with the local users, but you can send an SMS to anyone and receive one as well right from the user portal. So if you're using those SIP trunks, either Bandwidth or Telnix, you can SMS from the user portal as well as receive those SMS messages. So that's a big one that you need to be using the supported trunk carriers in order to use that. Billing, we integrate with both Stripe and FreshBooks. Those are payment processors, so it's supporting that transfer of money from their bank to your bank as payment for goods and services bought with a credit card. Vodia itself uses Stripe for post-pay or prepays on the Vodia-hosted PBX. So we're using it as well, and it integrates well there. So it's API-friendly. You can bill your subscribers. You can build your own plans in there as well as put in trunk rates and charge your customers accordingly. Role-based management, so we do have 3 layers of an admin login. So you've got the super admin who basically has access to everything and can make any changes on the system or within the domains. Domain admin is just going to be an admin for that particular domain. So again, we're talking multi-tenant. You could have 20, 30, 40 domains on there, and a domain admin would only have access to their own domain, whereas a system admin or a super admin would have access to system-wide global type of settings that they could go in and change. So you've got 3 different layers, and you can assign those from within the administrator. The super admin can then assign who's going to be a domain admin or a system admin on the system. Agent groups. So this is ACD. This is built in as well with the hosted multi-tenant. You can set up your ACD groups. It's going to route incoming calls to a specific group of agents. Some of the features there, a callback option. If someone doesn't feel like waiting in the queue, they can press some digits and get a callback instead. You'll see agent analytics. We do have an outbound calling program. We actually even have a webinar that we did on that, I believe on our YouTube channel, talking about outbound calling, hitting that star code, star 55, which will start the outbound calling, and then those agents will start being fed calls that are going to go ahead and be made outbound to the people in that campaign. Different custom messages while they're waiting on hold. They're placed inside a queue, but they're not only hearing music on hold, they're hearing potentially some pre-recorded announcements or custom messages as well that's kind of mixing in with the music on hold. Different algorithms to send the call out. It could be a round robin type of thing or go in a sequential order, things like that. And you can even add more agents each stage. So as you get to the next stage, you may say, okay, we're going to bring these couple of agents in as well. You can have a different ring melody for those ACD calls, add CMC, client matter codes, a special dial plan for outbound calls from the queue. So we'll see from the from header that caller ID, CID, will be sent out for the queue. So if someone calls back, they're calling directly back into the queue. And a queue position announcement. So that's pretty standard, letting people know what their position is in the queue. So whether they want to wait, and then they could initiate the callback option if they don't want to wait because they're 12th in the queue. Auto attendants, again, basic feature of most phone systems. Virtual receptionist, if you want to call it that, connects incoming calls to extensions and other devices. We do have a lot of pre-recorded prompts that are already built in, so feel free to use those, or you can create your own. You can do a dial by name from that auto attendant. Night service, we'll talk in a minute about service flags. So if it's night, you can have a different thing happening. It can be transferring to someone differently or playing a different message once it becomes after 5 o'clock or something along those lines. Sending the call detail records from the auto attendant. It can be multi-language. And of course, nested auto attendants. So that means I can go from that first auto attendant, which takes me then to the second auto attendant with more choices, which could then take me to another auto attendant, and so on. You know, not everybody loves those, but it does give you an opportunity to make sure that by pressing a sequence of buttons, these people are getting to the right person. Different background music for the auto attendants. And again, service flag messages just means this auto attendant is going to do something completely different at 5 o'clock or before 8 in the morning or something along those lines that can be set up. And hunt groups. So in a hunt group, a little different than an agent group in the sense that a hunt group is not placing the calls in the queue, but it's just routing calls to a group of extension by stages. Now, you can have custom ringing. You can have a BLF light go off when you're getting that hunt group call. The group name caller ID can be sent out. Excuse me. And just like the auto attendant, you can nest these. You've got 3 stages of extension ringing, and then a final stage where you define, you know, what's going to happen if it's gone through all of them. Are we repeating it and starting over again? Are we going to a new hunt group? Are we just sending them off to voicemail or something along those lines? These can all be recorded, and of course you can send the CDR reports about that. We can also send an email about any missed calls to a supervisor. Cell phones can be part of hunt groups as well as agent groups. So if you're not in the office, you can still get those calls on your cell phone. You can pick up the call from that extension BLF, that light's blinking, so you can grab that call. And again, just like other accounts that we've talked about, you can set up a night service flag so that if they're getting a call at night, it's going to do something different, possibly go through some different stages. A park orbit, so the difference there between putting someone on hold, you're putting them on hold on your phone, you can come pick it up. If you park somebody, you're putting them on hold, but you're putting it on hold on the system so that anybody can retrieve that call. So you park the call and it can be retrieved by any other user in the company. It can be a button on the desktop phone, so if something's parked, they just press the button and they're grabbing that. For the parker, the person who's parking, he can get a reminder, a ring back in a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes that somebody is still parked. Calling out from this will send the ANI. Different music on hold for here, if you prefer that, than you might have with a hunt group or ACD group. And it can call a specific number after the park reminder, as well as messaging after parking the call. So a lot of people will still use this park orbits, again, because rather than just placing it on hold, you've got the ability to go anywhere, or anyone can pick up that call with just a button on their phone. Conference rooms, so we have a conference room or a conference server. I mean, it's normally an expensive add-on with the traditional phone systems, but it is built in to the Vodia system. Some of the features there are before entering the conference, we can play a tone or ask participants to leave their name. We can schedule conferences for different times or just do an ad hoc conference. Invite outside participants via dial out. So it actually, once the conference begins, it can start dialing out and grabbing people to bring them into the conference. And of course, it has its own outbound number that's going to be sent out to these people, as well as its own dial plan for those outbound calls, because this is now the conference calling out to bring people into the conference. Different languages can be offered at the beginning. English, Spanish, German are offered right on the start. And then you have access codes. You can set a participant access code or a moderator access code where the conference won't even start until the moderator's in and presses that access code. You can have permissions to monitor this account, again, with a button on your phone. The conference itself can be recorded, can have a different music on hold while people are waiting for it to begin, and the maximum number of participants is up to 50 participants in a conference. Paging, so we can page other users by dialing the paging account and speaking into the phone. Benefits of the paging account, you can do it two ways, either unicast or multicast. Unicast is not going to support as many because basically each page is a one-to-one call, whereas multicast is usually used where you're just doing one RTP stream to the multicast group and then it's distributing it out to the phones. So that's going to use less resources. Live playback, so you can play a recorded message rather than speaking into the phone, play the associated WAV file. Again, give permissions for people to monitor this account. You have a maximum page duration that can be set, and you can send an email after the page as well, and that can be set up. Service flags we've mentioned a couple of times. That's kind of based on your business hours. You can control the flow of where that call is going to be going, outside normal business hours. This can be automatic or manual, so you can set it up so it just automatically kicks in at 5 o'clock, or there can be a button on your phone that you can set so that when you hit that button, the service flag will kick in and it'll either direct that somewhere else, play a different message to somebody. This can be based on holidays. It can be assigned to agent groups, hunt groups, auto attendants, users. This is anything that you want to do outside of business hours. Different permissions, PIN codes to initiate it, and where it's going, the redirected numbers can be changed right on the fly. RPS, redirection provisioning server. So with certain phones, you've got an RPS integration using HTTPS, mutual TLS authentication. So it's going to reduce operating costs to deploy the devices because you're basically talking about zero-touch provisioning, easy integration. It's going to save time. which means more money, saving the logistics costs. And you've got a secure connection over HTTPS where you're redirecting that to be provisioned at the server of the phone vendor and then sent back to the phone to provision. Here's some screenshots of our new Windows app. So this is the user portal, but it can be brought up as an app on Windows, Linux, or Mac. Some of the things you've got in here is instant messaging, calling people, posting a private note to someone or a public note for everybody. There's a favorite section where you can have your favorite extensions there. SMS, if you're using bandwidth or Telnix, you can do SMS directly from here. It's going to show presence with these little dots here of whether somebody's available or available only on their phone or not available at all. You've got your home window, and then you've got history where you're going to see total calls, in and outbound calls, missed calls, an address book that's built in. The calling that's done from here is going to be WebRTC calling. Or you can do it through your desk phone, so you can define what you're associating to right in the app itself, right here, web browser or desk phone. It's going to show the agent names and their locations. And built right into the app and user portal is an agent group wallboard. So you can see statistics right there. You can monitor multiple groups. You can see we've got multiple groups up here. You can pick a date range, see the total number of calls, in and out, missed calls, speed of answer, ACD time. You can see if calls, how many calls were abandoned, or the percentage of calls that were abandoned or transferred, as well as agent presence down here. You've got all the different agents, how many calls they've taken, things like that, and graphs. So that's built right in to here in the ACD section up top. And text messaging, so each user, when you click on a user over on the left-hand side, you'll see the ability to either make a call to them, text them, or add them as one of your favorites. This little star would be your favorites right there. You can chat with people with multiple users. There's a chat indicator, add favorites at that time. This can be done on the web or the client. So either way, again, user portal or app. And again, it's going to show presence there when you're talking to somebody. Call history, again, is going to show your in and outbound calls, your missed calls, how long those calls were. From any of these, if you click on it, you do have the option to call or message them. You'll see the duration of the call and any call. You'll see the call history of your messages as well, so you can see calls as well as messages. Forwarding, again, kind of a standard feature on most PBXs, but forwarding allows you to forward calls all the time, or just on a busy or a no answer, or maybe when you're unregistered. And then you also have DND status messaging. That means up here where it says DND, it'll say DND is on, and you can basically put a custom message in here explaining why you're on Do Not Disturb. And certainly voicemail is built in. You can listen to your voicemails from here, delete them, text the user if it's internal. So when you hit the three dots over here, you get the ability to call them, message them, delete it, or just close this out. And then a search function. If you got a lot of voicemails in there, you can use the search function to find the voicemail you're looking for. And here's some more of the call center features. Some of these we already talked about. And again, these slides here will be a great reference for you to come back to when we post this. You know, things like the callback option, call recording, login features, distinctive ring, pre-recorded announcements, call limit, redirecting of the calls, things like that. So there's a lot of features that are built in and are part of the system. So when we talk about the multi-tenant license, all features are included, including ACD, which in a lot of other phone systems is going to be an additional cost. You can build those agent groups right out of the gate. And I believe this is the last slide here. Some enterprise features. So the ability to connect remote offices, build bridges between offices, built-in redundancy, and that's for the hosted license only. So on this slide here, you can see that a lot of these are for hosted only. That hotel PBX features, the Fidelio certified, that's only for hosted. Multiple domains is only hosted. If you're doing something on premises, that's one domain. That's a single domain system. You need hosted in order to go in there and say, add a new domain, which is your multi-tenant. The FreshBook and Stripe monthly billing, that's on the hosted license only, as well as the remote provisioning. So if you're going to use the remote provisioning server for any of these phones, you would need to do a hosted license. CRM integrations are hosted license only. Zoiper and Counterpath, the soft phones, are hosted only. Transcribing your voicemails using the Google API, again, hosted only. Some of these last ones can be used on either hosted or premises, which is automatic recording, using the DNS Made Easy API, Let's Encrypt, Teleo CNAM to rate spam calls, as well as the SMS messaging can be done whether it's hosted or premises. And that's what I got here. So hopefully this was beneficial. I'm going to open this up to any questions. So if you do have any questions, just go over to the chat feature, and we'll look for those. Can you bridge tenants on the multi-tenant license? Absolutely, yes. Yes, that's probably a cleaner way to do it than through the CPE. So if you do have any questions, anybody out there, just use the chat and type it in, and we'll get to those questions as they come in. Give you guys another minute, see if anybody has anything. You know, honestly, the multi-tenant is a pretty simple thing to explain, and that's kind of why we added a lot of the other features of the system in here to take up some of the time. But, you know, really, like I mentioned earlier, it's that one instance and be able to create multiple domains, ease of management through that one instance, and ease of updates. Obviously, update the system and all the domains are updated. So those are really the key features of the multi-tenant, as well as some of the features that I mentioned that are only available with multi-tenant. So if you want to use those features, CRM integration, soft phone integration, some of the things I just mentioned, you will need a hosted license in order to do that. All right. Not seeing any other questions. So I'm going to close this out. Like I mentioned, this is something that you can access probably later today or by tomorrow at the latest. This will be posted on our blog, so good reference for a lot of the features that we've talked about, as well as some of those pages with multiple features on them. You know, feel free to grab those and use those in your presentations. I appreciate everybody's time today. If you do have any other questions for me or for sales, you can always email us, sales@vodia.com. My email is ea@vodia.com, and you can call us at 617-446-1399. Again, I'm extension 451 if you have any questions for me. So thank you again, everybody, and have a great day.